Eric, I think we need to have a hard conversation.
Right now? Like, just like that? Like, no warning,
Yeah, I think it'd be for the best. And thankfully, we have Cornella Sullivan here with us today to talk about the importance of having those hard conversations and how to navigate them here on the Principal Choice podcast.
Find your purpose, find your people, and find your place.
Welcome back to the Principal Choice podcast. Today, we have Cornella Sullivan joining us as we talk about the importance of having those hard conversations and how to navigate them. Well, thank you for joining us here today, Cornella. I really appreciate you taking the time to come and join us while we talk about having tough conversations and how that impacts us and how we can kind of go through them without it being so scary, I should say. We've all been on the receiving end of those tough conversations, and we've all had to kind of have those tough conversations, and they really do impact us. Can you remember the first time you had a very tough conversation and how that impacted you?
Absolutely. First, I want to say it's an honor to be here. Thank you for having me on. I've been excited watching the previous shows and things like that. But to answer your question, those tough conversations, when they're directed to you, they can hit you a little bit different, right? So that's a learning experience right there. So I actually had two tough conversations directed towards me by two different individuals. And it was really about, we need you to show up with confidence, right? Like, you have to believe in yourself as much as we believe in you. And it was very stern. And I wasn't expecting it, which is always, the little part that throws you off. And I'm like, okay, well, what do you see that I'm not seeing? Right. And so I decided to show up in that moment, since it did catch me off guard, show up in that moment and really say, you know what? Let me just listen. Take in what I can, not with a biased or a judging spirit, but I'm here to listen. And then I can process it myself, right? So I went back, oh gosh, I can't believe I'm failing in this, all that internal talk that we do. But then that's when you jot things down. What are the pros and cons? Obviously, this person sees something in me, and maybe I should shift a little bit and take heed to that feedback, right? Because it is positive or constructive feedback, either way you look at it. So yeah, that was definitely an impact for me.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I know one of the biggest things too that holds people from welcoming that hard conversation is it feels like it's a personal attack.
Yes.
I know we covered that in a recent episode where we talked about like constructive criticism and stuff, but that's one of the first barriers that you have to like really start to break down. And, sometimes it just means with opening up with the person that you are usually getting hard feedback from, whether it be your manager, or mentor, or whatever it might be, and talking to them about what works for you and telling them kind of like what signs that you show. I know we all kind of show signs sometimes, whether it's arms crossed or like looking around or whatever it might be, but kind of gauging those things. When you're engaging in a hard conversation, what are things that you notice and you look at and take in to change and tailor how you're giving that hard or how you're going through that hard conversation with somebody?
That's a really good question. I would say first, maybe those verbal or nonverbal cues. We've all heard that before, right? Like you said, are they fidgety, different things, but also, and I don't want to jump off the question, but really that relationship. So if I've had previous conversations with Eric or Milena, right, I kind of know how we flow through a conversation. So if I'm noticing something where maybe it's more standoffish, right, or different things like that, you have to pay attention to those cues. Is something going on in that person's life that you may be aware of, maybe not all the details, but is this the right time? So I really ask a question. That's kind of how I gauge how I'm going to jump into this. Are you ready to receive true feedback right now? And I said, just be honest with me, right? Are you ready for a deep conversation? And sometimes they say, you know what, Cornella, right now is not the time. I'm like, great. Let's get something else on the calendar. Let's do it when you're ready and I'm ready. Okay, right there. But if they're like, yeah, I'm good, I'm ready. Okay, let's jump right in. and we jump right into the conversation. I said, I'm going to be a little real with you here, so you know what to expect, because you can't really give feedback if you're not being told the truth. So yeah, those are some of the things I kind of look for. The answer to that question is number one. Number two is, the spacing off, the fidgety. Am I like distracted? Are they giving me their full attention? And if not, even while the conversation is going on, I may stop and say, hey, is everything okay? Do you have any questions that we can walk through right now? Different things like that. Mm-hmm. So a lot of different nonverbal cues can tell you the story, right? And help you ask more of those investigative questions.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. For sure.
Absolutely. And I think you really hit the nail on the head too. It's that relationship that you have with them and building that relationship. Mm-hmm. And I know it can be difficult when we have, new associates coming in and trying to build that rapport, especially if they're struggling right off the beginning. So having those conversations and getting to know them and building that relationship really is key to having a meaningful, impactful conversation, especially when it's tough. And I think it's hard to remember that those conversations come from a place of caring and that you care enough about them that you want them to succeed. And sometimes I know even in my personal life, hey, this is something that upset me. This is how I felt about it. How can we move past this? Because you want that relationship to be nice and smooth so you can continue to grow together within the company as well, or on a personal relationship too. What do you think is the hardest feedback from getting that tough conversation? Like when someone pushes back in those conversations, how do you kind of handle those hurdles and the difficulties that kind of are in that, if you will?
Yeah. So, what we're talking about travels from work to personal to stranger. So there's a lot of different components, but a hard conversation may always happen regardless of where you're at. But you have to be ready for the pushback. So let's break it down. At work, you stick to the facts, you stick to the policy, right? We're in this situation, we're having this conversation because you violated XYZ policy, or, that is not what we stand for. That's not part of our culture, right? And I want to help you grow from this. So that key point that you just said, when you can put that care into it, you have to remind them too, and yourself while you're having that. So it's really, hey, I'm here to help us grow through this. I will help you grow through this process, but we both have to be open to that, and you have to be open to that too. Another thing, so personally, when you get that pushback, right, that's a lot of emotion. Okay, so that's a little separate from work. We have emotion at work, but when we're dealing with someone in our personal lives, you care for that person, you love that person, you've been through thick and thin with that person. And so it depends on where your relationship is at that time. So when you're getting the pushback, you can say, you know what, we're going to pause right here. I have to pause so that way my emotions don't get the best of me. I don't say something that I have to try to take back later, which we know can never really be done. And so those are the types of things that when you get the pushback, it's listening, right? It's asking, going back to work, it's asking those investigative questions. So why do you feel that way, right? Help me understand your disagreement in this. And that kind of helps open up that dialogue. So it's not me coming in at one direction, the other person trying to come in another direction, right? It's, okay, let's talk through this. And then we can come to an understanding and maybe that compromise. But personal, you got to take the step back. It's, hold on, I'm getting too emotional. I might cry, I'm angry. Like there's a lot of emotions in that personal situation. So take that break. Say, you know what, I thought about it, I processed it. Are you ready to come back? Just questions.
For sure. A big thing you touched on there was the why of it. I think that, I can go for work and personal, but when it's those deep emotional things, the why is big. It's huge because you can actually understand why someone did something. Maybe it was the wrong thing. It didn't go with a policy or a procedure or something that you'd agreed upon in a personal relationship before. But maybe they weren't on the same page. They thought XYZ wasn't ABC. They thought it was a whole different category. And that can alleviate some of that emotion that you're feeling and they're feeling. Of course, still you may need to table it, because if it's that big, hey, sometimes we need to do that. But that's really a big thing to push on in all situations, even if it's a policy thing. Hey, why are you doing it this way? Why is that going on? Oh, you were told to do it this way 6 months ago? Got it. Let's get that fixed. Let's get that corrected. Let's move on from there. So one thing with hard conversations that I think a lot of us put to the side is starting them early. A lot of us, and I know I've done this in my past and even sometimes now, where I'll kind of just wait until it needs to be brought up instead of when it could or should be brought up. When did you start to like really have an emphasis on having those hard conversations early and setting those boundaries early? When was that like a big thing that like popped up for you?
When HR got involved.
That's fair. That's
and I was
fair.
like, I don't want HR involved in my conversation. Not that human resources is a bad thing, right? Sometimes we need that third party. Yeah. But you think back and you say, wait, I could have handled this a different way. And now I have to, I want the presence of HR to be there to, have my back, to make sure that I'm doing things right. And then we have to, unfortunately, start over because maybe I missed something in building that relationship and that trust with that person. So that was really the big key right there. Also, when I had to tell someone that they didn't get a position, I didn't do it at the right time. And when I hit the dial button and they answered, I already knew I messed up. I was like, oh my gosh, what am I doing right now? And so I started the conversation with them. And I said, you know what? I'm sorry. Let me apologize. I said, I'm going to tell you this situation right now. However, I'm going to meet with you on another date so we can really sit down and talk about it. But I need you to process this over the weekend so we can sit down and talk about why we're now facing this situation. But I did apologize because I had to go back of what you said earlier. And how would I receive that? That would just devastate me for you to just call and just be blunt and get it out like that. So those are some of the learning experiences I've had. They were tough. And even to this day, I sincerely apologize still because they stick with me, right? And so every new conversation I'm getting into, I'm like, is this relationship as strong as I need it to be to say what I need to say today? If not, then maybe that's not the time, right? So maybe I say, okay, we want to start this hard conversation early, but maybe I need to give you a little bit more praise about all the great things that you do versus just coming in with all the things you do not do well or that are a challenge at this time. And it's okay to say, sometimes we put too much of a time limit on everything. So it's okay to say, let me praise you this week. I can save that till Monday, to Tuesday, right? And just have that internal talk with yourself, right? Really ask those questions to yourself. Is it too soon or is it the perfect time? Yeah.
For sure. Absolutely. I really enjoy what you said that too, that it's important to have that, but it's also important to kind of see the timeline and know that, yes, there are things that probably do need, conversations immediately, but if there is a way that you can really help build them up where they don't feel like they're being torn down, it can be so beneficial. Speaking from my own personal experience, I don't know how many times it was like, nothing, crickets, and then all of a sudden, why are you doing this? I don't know what's happening. Like, I didn't even know what's going on. And I think a lot of people have experienced that in previous jobs, relationships, anything like that. So it's great to kind of be able to give them that grace as well when it comes to that. I think the interesting part with these hard conversations too is kind of what we expect out of them and how to set those expectations. So when you're having these hard conversations and you're wanting to help navigate someone through them, what are some of the expectations that you kind of set forth for them?
That's a really good question. Okay. So I'll use this. I don't know if I stole this from someone or
it's okay. Steal it. It's good. It's fine.
Right? Things I combined from different books or, conferences and things like that. But it's PPE and maybe sometimes the other E, right? So it's prepare, That's the first one, right? So the expectation, prepare so you can share those expectations. And then the second P is practice, right? So just like everybody practices for interviews or that speech you're going to do, take the time to say, hey, Milena, can I practice this hard conversation? Because this is really on my heart. I need to get this out, right? And just listen, give feedback. Same thing, practicing in the mirror. How are you going to feel? That's huge. The third one is to, of course, I forget now. So PPE, execute, sorry. So the E is to execute, right? Go ahead and execute on that. And then the second E would be experience, right? Gaining that experience, those ones that you messed up on, right? The ones that you did very well. But then taking all of that back during your preparation time is when you're going to write down those expectations. Now you write down your expectations and then you leave a section for their expectations of you. So I had a conversation with someone before, and during that time, we kind of broke our meetings down into small segments. Right? So we could take the time to build those expectations together. When you come into something and all they're saying is, you're coming with, I need you to do this, 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 and this. This is my expectation. Well, what about you? Right? So you got to give them time to lead theirs as well. And then also share your why. So if you have the time before you have to have that hard conversation, say, hey, I just want to let you know, I'm going to send you an email. I want you to read through it. And I just want you to list or be ready to share 5 expectations that you have for me. And I'm going to do the same. Bring a why so I can understand and you can understand. That's going to make things a lot easier because it's not just you coming with all the bad information, all the expectations, all those things. It's making it a team effort, right? Their voice matters just as much as yours does. So you have to make sure that you're giving them to the openness to bring those expectations. But really quick, so the expectation piece is more of, if you were in my position, what would you want from me? Right? And then tell me why. Just give me 3, 5. It doesn't have to be 10, something excessive, something that I can actually live up to. So don't give me an expectation that you wouldn't put for yourself. So yeah, that really helps on building those expectations. Make it a joint effort. It can't just be, I expect you to do these things. Everybody's different.
I love that. It turns it from what it feels like a lecture into a conversation. Because I think that's always the hardest part. You never want it to feel like a lecture because that doesn't get anywhere. I know every time I've been lectured, I'm like, well, I hate authority now. Not really, but it's like, well, now I just want to dig my heels in, or you feel very combative or down on yourself. So I love the fact that you were opening that up to a conversation piece for sure.
For sure. And that really hit home for me right now, because something I'm doing with my team is we have these small groups that we do. Everyone's kind of put into a different small group, evenly divided, and I've been letting them do their thing for a while. And then eventually I was like, a lot of these expectations that I feel everyone has, or that I have of everyone, is not what they think it is. But I also told myself too, before we go through and I give expectations, I'm not going to make this a lecture. I need your expectations of me first. So that's what I did with all the meetings. I was like, you need to tell me what you need from me. I'm not going to sit here and lecture you for 30 minutes telling you, hey, do this, do that, do this. This is how we start our day, blah, 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 blah. It was, what do you need from me first? Because if I'm not here for you, I can't expect anything of you. Plain out simple. Now, I know with our hard conversations, we've been talking a lot about that one-on-one setting. How about with a group? What are some different challenges that you face or have faced when you're giving those hard conversations in a group setting, and how do you hurdle over them and move through them?
Yes. In a team setting or group setting, small group, whatever, it's more difficult because you have maybe 5 to 30 different personalities that you're trying to get the buy-in, the understanding, all of those things. So again, you have to prepare, right? So that way you're not stumbling over your words, or, that nervousness sits in, different things like that. But let's see. You're making me think today, this morning. One thing that I like to do is I incorporate a lot of we we should be doing this. I'm included in this. I'm part of this team. Just because I'm the one talking doesn't mean that that doesn't relate to me. But to answer your question fully, some challenges is the groupthink, right? You get a lot of group thinking that you might have one outlier, not in a bad way, right? I like the challenge, but is this the best setting to challenge? What is whoever's doing it, what is your purpose of challenging me directly in front of 30 people, right? It's bringing that confrontation, and it's always having to be the bigger person, right? So that's a huge thing that I see when you're meeting with the big groups is you might have one or two people that are just asking all the questions, kind of tearing down everything you say, and you take it. You're in that meeting, you have to say, okay, that's a great question. You stay professional in that, and you say, let me get back to you on that. I might not have the answer. And even if I do, maybe I don't need to share it right now. So let me pull that to the side, pull all my, put it all together nice in a bow, and then I can deliver that later. Because you're on the spot sometimes when that happens. And that can be a challenge when giving feedback, having a hard conversation with a team, like we completely failed, right? What are we going to do to fix it? Different things like that. So there's a lot of, there are those challenges that come with the team. But if you have the time to prepare, and sometimes we don't, but if you have the time to prepare, it's, hey, these are the things I'm going to talk about. Here's the agenda ahead of time. It doesn't have to be the detail, but just the top two things. I would love your feedback, but I would love to have questions at the end. So if you put that out there before you have that meeting, you can try to not control, but help them navigate through that meeting. So it's not so disastrous, right?
Unpredictable.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Good
sure.
word. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for joining us. Talk about hard conversations. I really feel like that we learned a lot in the challenges of navigating them because, sure, it's a lot easier said than done when it comes to those things. Even if you have a lot of practice, there's some of those ones that come along and you're like, oh, this is going to be a hard one.
I still don't like confrontation, but
Yeah.
sometimes you just go, this is the only way you can actually progress. And I think that's the hard part is knowing like where that wall and that limit is and saying, all right, I did everything I could, but we're not going to make progression or movement or growth if we don't have that kind of talk.
Yes. Could I leave one last tidbit if that's
Yeah.
okay?
Go for
Or
it.
takeaways.
Yes.
Like, what do you take from this? So I liked how you said the word confrontation because that raises a red flag.
Mm-hmm.
And I read a quote a couple days ago that said, let's kind of honor the green flag. So I'm going to pull a green flag out of a hard conversation.
Let's do it.
Yes, green flag. So with a green flag, you're looking at the positive of that hard conversation. Unfortunately, we always think it's confrontation. But what if we change the definition of that? A hard conversation may just be something that I really don't want to talk to you about, but it doesn't have to go as far as a confrontation because what we're doing is we're automatically putting ourselves in that fight or flight mode. Oh my gosh, I got to go talk to this person about this. All these different things when it's, wait a minute, I get a chance to talk to this person and help them grow today. That automatically changes how I'm reacting to and preparing for that conversation. So look at the positives that'll come out. You're going to learn something. I'm going to learn something because I'm taking the time to sit and talk with you about this. It's not a confrontation. Even if you push back on me, I still have to say, you know what? That's a good point. But we're going to dive into that a little bit deeper. Maybe not today, but we can put some on the calendar for the next day. So tidbits, take your time. It's not personal, right? Unless you're having that relational one, stick to the facts, right? Even in the relation, like the private or personal one, stick to the facts. Don't demean, right? Treat that person as a human and always remember that, how would I want this delivered to me? And I have to put in a little tidbit. We are working on all of our personality training. That's going to help us immensely because then hey, I know how to show up for Elena or how to bring something to her versus how to bring something to Eric. And I'm just using that as an example right here. But but those are things that you must know. It's, again, part of that relationship. I can talk to you one more thing. One more thing, and then we're done.
Another one.
Yes, and another one. But last and not least, so a lot of people use the sandwich kind of method. Some people like it, some people don't. But what I've noticed is that if I take the time to give a shout out, to share some praise on a regular basis for like really tangible or intangible things that happen, to say, Eric, you did a great job on this. I just want to let you know I really enjoyed how you presented that. Then when it's time to give feedback, right, that may not be the most positive, I don't have to do the sandwich method. I can say, Eric, this is what we're going to talk about today, right? Because I give you enough praise where me giving you this negative, maybe not so great feedback is not going to destroy you, because we have that relationship already to say, Cornella really does believe that I do a great job, but we do need to work on this.
Yeah.
Right?
It's like the extended sandwich.
Yes.
Where you give the kudos
The hoagie?
before,
Yes.
not even the hoagie, not even knowing you're going to have to give that hard conversation, but the hard conversations come in the middle between those, whenever they pop up.
Exactly.
Love it.
Focus. You have to have focus in those. And if you're doing positive and negative all the time, you're like, which one is it? Am I supposed to be happy or sad right now? Or am I supposed to be happy or, receiving something, a lesson learned? Take the time to say, no, this is just a lesson learned. You do a fabulous job, but we're going to focus on just this one thing.
Yeah, for sure.
So, Eric, do you feel more prepared for those hard conversations now?
Yeah, I do really feel a lot more prepared knowing that these hard conversations are a coaching moment. It's a positive thing. It's all about how you go about it and our mindset going into it. Those are the biggest takeaways that I had about those hard conversations that we can have.
Absolutely. They can be very, very impactful. And please check out the show notes below for more information, and check out our next episode of the Principal Choice podcast.
Find your purpose.
Find your people, find your place.